All right, welcome back to JA Inspires virtual edition. I am your host, Dr. Troy Podell, and with us is a very exciting guest, Bill Corbett, who is the president of Corbett Inc., Corbett Enterprise. It's a fourth generation family-owned business, taking an integrated approach to helping educational institutions, healthcare providers, and growing businesses maximizing their success. It began as a small office supply company in 1935, and Corbett Enterprise has grown to include 5 companies stretched across the entire northeastern United States. Bill credits the success of Corbett Enterprise to the collaborative efforts of his team and their focus on client engagement and experiences. Bill, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure, and hopefully we can share some information that's helpful to the audience.
So, Bill, yours is a family business story. I would love it if you could please kindly speak to what that's like growing up in the family business and what it was like for you to assume the reins of it.
So the irony of it was actually growing up as a kid, I didn't really totally know what my father did. I knew he had his own little business and it was related to the office supply world, office furniture. But to be honest, I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. As kids growing up, we had a pretty highly disciplined, we had 6 kids in the family. So we all had our chores and our jobs, and it shaped us early on with a work ethic. And then my dad and mom never went to college. So my journey took me to college primarily to play football. And I'll admit that, it's probably not the right thing to be saying, but my focus wasn't totally on my academics. So I went to college to play football and enjoyed that process. And when it came time to pick a major, based on my family history and just knowing my dad was in business, I said, okay, business major. Didn't really think a whole lot about it. And fortunately for me, it turned out to be an area of love for me. I started out in management, migrated to a degree in marketing. And so when I finished college, my dad and I were very close, and there was this weird relationship. He didn't want to ask me to come to work for him, and I didn't want to ask him for a job because we didn't want either one to be in an awkward spot. So finally, my mother got us together and said, you both want the same thing. And I went to work for him in 1979 and really learned the business at that time. Now, sadly, my dad passed away 24 months later of esophageal cancer. So here I am at the time, 25 years old. At the time, we were about 3 million in sales and about 7 people. I was the youngest. So the challenge that I faced at that time was, how do you blend in an older group that's now listening to a 25-year-old, so to speak. So the challenges were bold and big. And at this time in 1981, the recession was very much a part of the business world, and there was some debt we had to deal with. And so, to your listeners, it's an example of baptism by fire. My career path was sort of chosen for me at that time. The good news is the skill sets that I had learned through my life of hard knocks and discipline and liking to win and building teams and making things sort of an involved process with all of the new players. As we started to add new people and we were very diligent, the success started to come.
Bill, I think there's an important insight that you can offer here about, and thank you for such a thoughtful answer. An important insight you can offer about what exactly the president or owner of a company does. I know your day-to-day is very different across many different days, but if you had to describe to a layperson who had no idea what a president of a company does, what exactly do you do?
So I always explain it this way. You start big and move small. So the big piece that I'm responsible for, along with a lot of help, we're a very collaborative group here, is the business plan. So we have to establish upfront exactly what our goals and objectives are and make that very specific. It's all about data. It's all about understanding the numbers, where you're going to achieve your business, all of your accounts. So you build these massive business plans that cover every detail. So right now, our target's somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 million. How do we break that down into actionable steps? So I spend a good portion of my time in the strategic part. I spent a lot of my time in the finance part, keeping an eye on how the revenues are coming in and the revenues are going out and building financial budgets with our finance team. I work and still mentor and coach quite a bit with our sales team, especially the more newer of the sales teams that need a little bit more of maybe my enthusiasm or love for what I do, and help learn or help teach them the the key elements of what sales of tomorrow really is: consulting, imparting knowledge. I spend a lot of time with the design team, looking over some of the larger projects that we have where we might want a collaborative group to look at it and say, are we providing the most inspiring space for this college, for this K-12 school, for this large corporate hospital, et cetera. So it sort of is kind of this big picture whittled down into the little picture. I'll be on the phone with a client taking care of a problem or an issue. I'll be working with our manufacturers on a regular basis to push them a little bit if they're not meeting a delivery or a production, or if we have to work on a different type of variation of a standard product. I'll work with their design team and industrial designers. So in a small company like ours, you're wearing many hats. And I think that's what I love most about it. It's the ultimate multitasking capability. And as I always like to say, you choose a path and you choose a career based on your strengths. And we have leader-minded people, which is great. We have follower-minded people, which is great. We have different interests. Some are heavy on technology. Some are more on the manual side. Some are more using their hands and mechanically. Some are more using their brains and not really wanting to talk to a lot of people. So it's a mix of salespeople, administrative people, interior designers. We have a group of installers that we keep an eye on. So I'm checking in, being part of it, mentoring. I would say my biggest job, and this is really what simplifies it, is how do I paint a picture? How do I keep a picture visible for all of our associates to recognize we are moving toward, each day, we are moving toward a better tomorrow? What have we done to set up a visualization for the team to know that we are going to have a better future and you're going to be a big part of that future?
It's an inspiring vision for sure. And I think that vision piece, if you will, of like the world that you're trying to build, it's so crucial. It's one of the things I love about your company is that it's very well defined and right on down, everybody's on that same page. And I know that there isn't a ton of vertical alignment necessary in your company. It's more of a horizontal base. Can you speak to what that's like in terms of a corporate culture? Because I know some of our viewers may be of the impression that there's a corporate hierarchy, but you guys tend to work alongside of one another.
I think I would be so dramatic as to say I despise hierarchy. And this is why. Being an outlier and being in the position of running a small company at the age of 25, I know how I was treated by some of the more hierarchical type companies that I dealt with. And I felt when I was sitting in a room that my work ethic and my knowledge and the work I'd put into being smart about what I was doing was enough, but I was discounted based on age. And I think that's where I developed this idea that I don't care if somebody's 18, I don't care if somebody's 80. If they've got a contribution, they're enthused, they're engaged, they're enthusiastic about where we could go as a company, they have complete center of the room to bring their ideas to the fold. So the idea of hierarchy, in my opinion, I call it corporate communism. And I think those days are gone. I think we have to really look at the contribution that everybody can make, treat everybody as an equal, let everybody feel like they're a part of what we're accomplishing, highlight and continue to bring to the fore what we're doing, what we're succeeding in, where we need to work, and never do you criticize in a way that's harmful. If we're not going at it, it's called servant leadership, and that is the leadership of tomorrow. I work for the 75 people that work here. It's my job to help support them and help them do their job, to remove barriers and to make things smoother for them to do what they're good at doing. And what happens is it develops a sense of trust. It develops an organization where people are not afraid to fail and they try things and they experiment. And as you mentioned earlier, we have about 5-6 little companies within our enterprise. 3 of them developed specifically from people with ideas, and some of those people in their 20s that came up with ideas, and we said, let's give it a whirl. And these have become successful little incubated companies that are making us a better company. So hierarchy is dead. The newer generation, the constituency that I'm speaking to today, you want to express your own creativity. You want to take control of your destiny, and the right companies are giving the up-and-coming students that will be joining the workforce the ability to exercise their brains.
Bill, to that end, if someone's looking to break into the field of entrepreneurship or starting their own business, what advice do you have for them?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a funny little thing that I started doing a long time ago. Everything requires study. And my biggest recommendation is take it on as a job. You need to research, you need to read. There's so many good things on the internet. There's so many people out there that will help you from a mentoring standpoint. Most people in a leadership position can point to, as I can, 4 or 5 people that were significant in my growth and development, which to this day, I'm very grateful to all of them. So find a mentor, educate yourself. Barnes and Noble factor. I would go to Barnes and Noble. I knew I liked business. You know, somebody may like design, somebody might like industrial engineering, somebody might like hospitality, somebody might, it doesn't matter what you like. Go find subject matters and sit, spread it out on a table, and the trends and the concepts will start to jump out at you. And from there, you'll learn your passion. From there, you'll learn the types of things that guide you and you get excited about. The biggest travesty that I see is people take jobs to take a job. And you don't need to do that. You need to figure out where your passion is. What I always say, it's like in the world of financial investment, the sooner you start, the earlier you start putting in $100 a month and you just stay consistent with it, the more money you have by the time you're 40. Same thing with a job. The sooner you latch on to what it is you're excited about, where you believe you can add value, where you wake up every day excited about your job, you're going to be so much more successful than somebody still struggling trying to figure it out. So my recommendation to everybody is, simply put, research, spend time, log it down, treat it like it's an absolute job, to find what gets you excited, to find that thing that you get interested in, find that thing that you feel like, wow, I could make a career out of this. And it can go from the future of AI and robotics to something as manual as just understanding hospitality and creating client experiences. It can be high tech, it can be low tech, it can be in between tech. And that's the piece. So many people show up. We've had interns here and say, hey, you know, so have you thought about like what you want to do? We had an intern here, senior in high school, heading off to Temple. I always sit down and try and get in their head a little bit. Hey, you know, and you watching, what are you thinking about? If I was to ask you this question, where do you see yourself in a couple of years? What's that love job? Now, it's okay if you don't have the answer, because I'm here to tell you, most don't. But it's not okay that you just rest with that. Go do some homework. Trust me when I tell you this. Write it down. If you follow this guideline I'm giving you, in 5 years, you're going to be that much further ahead than those that kind of waited for life to happen to them. You need to make life happen. And, you know, some of us have grown up in different environments. Some of us are a little bit more coddled and protected by our parents. It's not a bad thing, but it's a difference for someone who's struggling and trying to make it through the hard lifes and knocks. So what you want to do is equalize the field. You want to study, understand your passions, and start moving toward that now. Don't wait. Don't wait for college. Don't wait for job careers. Don't jump around from job to job till you find it. Research and study. It'll save you so much anguish and wasted time as you launch your career.
And the more you do it earlier, the less you have to do it later.
Right? Amen. Amen. Because we all sit here, Troy, as you know, we sit here at our end and we'll look at resumes and you'll see 7 jobs in 9 years. Now, what that tells me is that they're not bad people. They've just not found their passion.
Right.
It's because they're not taking the time. I don't care if it's a month or 2 months, 3 months, internships, connecting with people like myself, learning more about the in-betweens. I mean, no one in the 15 minutes we have can really know what I do. Someone would look at it and say, oh, they sell furniture. No, oh my gosh, we don't sell furniture. My why is we create inspiring spaces. They create these experiences like Walt Disney World. And that's a fun place to be. And I love what I do every day because we know it's about the experience, the connections, the stories, the things that we do to make it exciting, the videos that we create, the way we message, the way we get people excited about what they're doing. There's where the fun and passion comes in, regardless of the job.
I want to jump out of my seat right now. I'm getting very excited. Bill, I've got one more question for you, if you don't mind. You've got 17-year-old Bill Corbett by the shoulders. What do you tell him?
Simply put, it's a little continuation. There's a thought out there called the attraction strategy. And what I encourage every young kid to think about is understand what you're moving toward. We tend to move toward that which we think about. And if you're not thinking about specific things, It's like I said, I have a business plan and it boils down into very specific actionable items. So if you're too broad-based, you think about, hey, I want to be a product engineer. All right, starts with that. I think I could be excited about that. I'd love to create the next iPhone. I'd love to create the next Tesla vehicle. I'd like to what gets you excited? Whatever it is. I want to be the best waitress that ever walked the earth and bring my experience to that restaurant and put them on the charts because of what I bring in terms of my energy. Doesn't matter what it is. No idea. But you think that through and move toward it. You've got to recognize that it's all about differentiation. So if we get resumes sent in here, I'm looking for the ones that stand out. I'm looking for the follow-up phone call. I'm looking for someone who finds a way to get my cell phone and text me a nice little note. Who's being aggressive? The advice is be different. The advice is take it seriously. The advice is when you're trying to secure a job, my question would always be, okay, you're trying to secure a job. What did you do that was different? After an interview, did you send a really nice follow-up letter, making sure the grammar and the intent of that letter carries through the excitement that you have for that job? And these are the things that get missed. It's this idea of being more intense, differentiate yourself, stand out in a crowd. If you're one of 100 in the resume, what are you doing that makes you different?
Show how you want it more. Right?
Exactly. And it's really, and people like me look for that, because here's what I would put it. In a room of 100, there's 5 people as a rule. In a room of 100 people, there's 5 that will take on that leadership aggressive approach. And for a lot of you, it's out of the comfort zone. But that's okay. Life begins at the end of the comfort zone. The more out of the comfort zone you are, the more you're growing, and the more people like me see that and say, they took a chance. They went out of their way. And for a company like us, that's what we want. I don't want a robot coming in here, doing admin work and not adding and contributing to the mental capabilities and the enthusiastic capabilities of what we try to bring to the market.
Bill, thank you so very much for being with us. Bill Corbett of Corbett Enterprise. Folks,
well, and the concluding remarks for me are, anybody wants to reach out, anybody wants to come in and get some close-up experiences with what we're doing, Corbett Inc., as you know, just check us out on the website and connect with me directly. I will address anyone that's interested and bring you in, and we can talk a little bit about the details of what we're doing.
Bill, thank you so very much. With that, we'll be right back with more exciting guests from JA Inspire Virtual.
Okay, thank you.